Hi everybody, so today I want to tell you how I think you should best prepare for your exams. So this could be applicable to GCSE students if you're particularly high aiming, A-level students because really those are some of the most important exams of your life. That goes for IB students as well, and also for degree students. I would say that this is specifically aimed at people who study arts subjects because, I mean, a lot of this is about kind of writing essays and going over quite long prose notes. And to be honest, you don't really end up doing that for things like maths or chemistry. Clearly they require a different approach entirely, but potentially there is something you could take from this video that could well apply to those fields as well. So I think the first thing I want to say is that you need to be organised, of course, and for exam season, which is incredibly stressful, you need to be extra organised, and you need to purchase a couple of new things that will help you, structure your revision material best. So I would say get a new folder specifically for your exam purposes. So it's basically like a super mega revision folder. This is one that I used during my IB exams. So basically, if you can see that at the top, hello, it says IB exams. This little garment is a little bit beat up now, a little bit warped, but it did me just fine for my IB exams. And basically, I just put in the whole shebang for one subject. This is just for one subject. This was my English revision folder for my IB exams, and I would put in this everything that I thought was most useful in terms of revision. So I put in past exam papers, essays I'd written, essays other students had written, because our teacher actually furnished us with the best essays that everyone in the whole class wrote, basically, so that we had the best chance of kind of putting everyone's knowledge together and writing your own amazing essay, basically. And then just, heaps of notes I'd written and, handouts and, basically all the best stuff put in one place so that you're not flitting between loads of different folders, trying to make sense of everything. Yeah, so that is one way to really make your life easier. Just have it all in one place. And yeah, I think that's the first thing I'll say. So, righty-ho, I would also say that in terms of making revision notes, you should make the most of the applications that you have on your laptops, computers, and the like. So, I personally prefer things like Microsoft OneNote, and on Mac, which I use Growly Notes, which is basically Growly and Notes. So if you search online for a download for that, it's basically like Microsoft OneNote, but for Mac users. And what OneNote and Growly Notes actually does is it gives you a totally blank page, and you have free choice of whatever to do with it. So you can make mind maps, you can make general sort of lists with checkboxes and all the rest of it. So this is one I made on Kant's Historical Ethics. So as you can see, I've got like little stars here telling me what, the most important points are. And yeah, this is just basically on Kant on moral worth and duty. So for me, revision purposes, that is absolutely brilliant, basically. I've highlighted the most important parts of everything, which I did on the computer. And yeah, so that is basically in a nutshell Kant on moral worth. So if you want to do something like that for your subjects, then I can really recommend OneNote and Growly Notes, because it's so important that you're not, searching through or trawling through absolutely loads of information during exam times, because to be honest, it's very stressful trying to locate precise pieces of paper with precise notes from a precise class or lecture. Honestly, take the time and actually type up your, your most useful notes, the most important notes for your, exam purposes, and get it on one paper and, you know, use that, really distill the content down, make it in the most sort of usable form. So the next thing I would suggest is obviously doing practice papers. I started doing practice papers probably in about October, so that's quite crazy really, because my degree only started in September, end of September. So the more familiar you are with the exam questions that you're going to be answering on, the better you will do. It's all very well knowing your subject back to front, inside out, you know, good on you, but if you've not practiced actually responding to exam style questions or past exam papers, then, you know, when it comes to the exam itself, you might be able to write the most fantastic answer, but not necessarily for the right question. Or, you know, you could have as much knowledge as anyone could have, but the fact that you haven't practiced actually writing it down in exam style sort of circumstances will mean that you waste time, or you're insufficiently prepared, or, you know, there's much more to writing a good exam than actually knowing everything about the topic. To be honest, in exams you probably, and in fact most definitely, will not be able to put down everything that you know about Kant or Schopenhauer or Virginia Woolf or anything like that. You know, to be honest, you'll only be able to display a small amount of the information you've learnt, which can seem incredibly wasteful, especially if your degree is assessed primarily by examination. But it's important that you do keep to the point, and the examiner isn't interested in everything about Kant. The questions are specific, and you need to get into the habit of answering specifically on whatever the question is asking. So that's a very important point, and actually a lot of people in exams fail or significantly underperform because they're actually not really answering the question. They're just trying to put down as much information as they have on Kant in general or whatever. So that's a little bit of an aside, but very important if you're doing your exams and there's a lot of weight on them. The next thing I would suggest is actually putting together your best, you know, most highly marked essays from your year, you know, your own essays, which have gained you the highest marks. So basically, I bought these the other day in Ryman Stationer in Oxford. They're basically just these really cheap, I don't know what you'd call them, I suppose a sort of project binder with like a little clip thing here which goes in and out, although it's not coming out right now because I've kind of filled this to capacity, so it's a bit tight. And basically I've put all the essays in these things for which I achieved my best grades. So as you can see in the top corner there, it says first because I got a first in that essay. Lucky me. So this is really good because it means that prior to your examinations you can actually look through some of your best work, and, you know, I haven't done it yet, but you should really go through your own essays with a highlighter. And the reason why that's important is because you actually want to be able to pick out your own best ideas, basically. It's very tempting to constantly go through your life just sort of recounting the ideas of other people, but at some point you're going to need to put it into your own words, and actually revising from your own sort of analysis, your own paraphrase is really important, because otherwise you might find yourself unwittingly plagiarising other writers' work if you rely too heavily on it for revision purposes. You know, you might end up like quoting them without actually quoting them. So that's really quite important, and I don't know if anyone else really does that, but for me I find it really interesting and really useful, particularly because, you know, I know that these essays have got the best grades, and they're the only essays I've really got access to that have the best grades. So, you know, they're all I've got really. I'm not really interested in asking other students to look at their essays to see how well they've done. I'm not really sure that's protocol, and to be honest, we're all quite proud and private with our intellectual property, so, you know, I like to keep it to myself really, and it can be a highly valuable resource. Okay, the next thing I would like to say is that if you're revising from home and you find it incredibly distracting, you should potentially consider placing yourself in your local library if you're on study leave, or, you know, you're at home, or, you know, you've got, you know, the ability to be away from college or school or university, and you find it really difficult to revise from home if there's lots of people around and lots of distractions. I did this during my IB exams. I'm currently not doing it right now. I'm actually just at home, you know, revising pretty much every day. My exams are in about a month's time. But I remember having done this on the IB that it would have been so difficult for me to revise from home because, you know, I've got a lot of pets at home. You know, there's always noise, there's always distractions, not least from your own kind of like, you know, computers and laptops and mobile phones and all the rest of it. You know, just jettison those things, you know, prioritise your revision. You need to be free from distraction and in the best place possible to prevent procrastination. And to be honest, for me, the way I procrastinate is basically by trawling the internet in a fairly bored fashion, whilst I'm feeling increasingly more guilty about not revising. So that's a pretty good point there. I would also say that when you're thinking about revising and when you've got study leave or you're on sort of spring break or whatever, you know, there is that pressure to think you should do as much as you possibly can, you know, really work yourself to the bone. You might have friends who are, you know, boasting about having done 12 hours revision one day and, oh, wasn't it so much fun and how easy it all is. Those people aren't really the most helpful friends to have, and some people can just work themselves to the bone and not burn out, but a lot of us, including me, need a break. To be honest, after a certain point in the day, my willpower is sort of atrophied, actually, so it doesn't really help me to continue trying to revise because actually beyond that point nothing's really going in anyway. So, you know, aim to really do about 5 to 6 hours a day, and, you know, do give yourself breaks. You know, go for a run, you know, enjoy your food, do things that you like as well. Otherwise you will just feel like everything is such a chore, you know, you're never gonna make it through. You need to be able to, you know, set yourself a realistic task, and to be honest, if you want to do best in your exams, you don't need to have done 12 hours study every single day for the last 2 months. It's absolutely sufficient to do 5 to 6 hours every day, you know, write, read, listen, potentially even find out your own learning style if you don't already. There is this learning styles inventory on the internet somewhere, I can't remember quite what it's called, but you can basically ascertain what kind of learner you are. So you might be a visual learner, you might be a read-write learner, you might be an audio learner, or you might be a kinesthetic learner. Whichever you are, you should really try to tailor your own study methods to suit you, because studies have shown that if you are, let's say, a read and write learner and you're trying to learn from, let's say, audio-visual means like lectures and things like that, you won't do as well as if you had studied predominantly from textbooks and from writing out notes in that fashion. So do play to your strengths. I actually don't really know what kind of learner I am. I always do that questionnaire and tend to get a different result. I think I'm somewhere between read, write and audio. Kinesthetic, I'm not really sure. I think that involves some kind of interpretive dance. I can't see how that would help. Okay, so The next thing I would suggest is possibly not something everyone could really do. It depends who they've got around, and it's basically teaching your material, your revision material, your exam material to a friend or a family member, because there's no better way to prove to yourself that you understand what you're learning and what you've learnt by actually telling someone else, explaining it to somebody else in the most simplistic or comprehensible form. So if you're actually able to lecture for, I don't know, 20 minutes a family member, and to be able to respond to their questions and actually, you know, be kind of sure that you're answering their questions correctly, that's a really good way to guarantee that you know what you're talking about. And you know, in an exam situation as well, you know, when you're finally coming to answer that big question on, you know, Schopenhauer on freedom, you will be familiar with putting the information across. You will know how to explain it as best you possibly can, although obviously there will be differences in your address when writing and then, you know, telling someone kind of verbally, you know, something like that. So there will be differences, but it can't fail to help. It just will. I'm quite lucky because I have so many people willing to listen to me and listen, you know, willing to learn from me, which is great. So, you know, I would really recommend that. Although, to be honest, some people can lack patience with you, and you know they're just switching off. But even so, it can be still really helpful to just corner them and lecture them in Kant or something. So I think that's sort of everything that I would recommend for revising. So don't get too stressed out. I know how incredibly tiring and frightening exams can be. To be honest, I'm quite a wreck when it comes to exams. I don't feel too bad right this moment, but I'm probably just like sublimating it or something, because I don't feel half as stressed as I should do. But, you know, the best way to prevent piss poor performance is to prepare. If you prepare and you're fully prepared and you've done crap loads of practice and you are so familiar with your subject matter that you could lecture at the best university in the world on it, then I don't know what more you could do to prepare yourself for, you know, a successful examination. Just keep it in perspective. I mean, some people's exams don't count for as much as others. My exams count for pretty much everything, so it's very important for me that I absolutely nail them. Other people's exams are, you know, very marginally weighted against things like coursework and dissertations and that kind of thing. So for those people, maybe it's not so important that you kill yourself over doing exams, but there are people amongst us, myself included, who do need to really prioritise exam study. And during your exam, you know, season, just really keep exams a priority. And if people are going to tell you, oh, shouldn't you be looking for a part-time job for summer already, or, you know, get your head out the books, Lou, you're really boring, you know, don't listen, because these grades that you get are for your entire life, and earning a little bit of money on the side right now is not a priority. Don't listen to them. They're just, I don't know, I don't think they're trying to make you fail, but you know what's important for you and you know what it takes for you to do well, and I think that's kind of what I'll leave with you here. So I think that's that. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I would really recommend it, because I am very parlant on Twitter basically, and I will offer more study advice on there and possibly some philosophical musings as well. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. Please subscribe and like the video if you did like it. Okay, see you!